to the garden show. I am happy to have you come to our yard today. My name is Linda Stahlman, and today I'm going to show you how to plant a hosta. Now, this is not the usual kind of hosta like you're thinking, because I did not go to the nursery and choose one. I had an opportunity to choose hosta and some other plants that I ordered through the mail. And when they came, I was a bit surprised, although I should not have been. The fine print of the details, I'm sure, said that it would be bare root. But nonetheless, I was surprised when I opened the bag, or when I opened the box, and it came in a bag like this. So when I took it out, it looked something like this, but in the meantime, I had to do some research about what to do with this bare root. So I found some information that said that I could soak it in water and it would hydrate the root so that it would be more ready to bloom or to put its foliage on. So I'm going to show you in this pot that I probably will just put it in for growing the foliage, and then I'll probably put it in the ground. So I'm starting out with a pot that has a drainage hole. Now that's really important because I also have planted some plants in a pot that does not have a drainage hole. And when the rain came, this pot was very full of water, and I purposely did not drain the water because I wanted you to see that the roots or whatever you plant in it will be very saturated and they won't do well. They'll probably drown. So that's why I chose a pot with a drainage hole. So I'm going to put a few rocks in to keep the soil loose, and then I have some compost that I'm going to fill with, quite a bit of it with. And then I'm going to give it a bit of potting soil. I'm using Miracle Grow, but you can use whatever you choose. And now I'm going to lay the hydrated root right on the soil. You can see that it turned a bit green, and it looks much happier than when I took it out of this plastic bag container. So I'm going to lay it on with the foliage is starting to begin, so I'm going to put that up, of course, and give it plenty of room to spread out. And finish by giving it more potting soil. And now, I'll scoot this around a bit. I'll give it a bit of a drink. And because the drainage hole is so big, it will probably come straight through. But that's okay. It certainly won't make it soggy in there. And then I will keep it watered as time goes on, and hopefully, gardeners are always full of hope. Hopefully it will produce a beautiful foliage of, this one is called Hosta halcyon, and it's supposed to give sort of a gold and white and green foliage. Now, I have other hostas in my garden, but they are all the same kind. And the reason for getting this one, and the others that I got, are so that I can provide variation in the color of the hostas in our garden. So another thing that I would like to show you is how I was able to propagate a Coleus. So I'm going to get rid of this and get my Coleus plant. This was a plant that I was able to overwinter, and this Coleus was so huge. It had grown way up here and in the back. It had grown, it was just mostly Coleus. And this petunia had grown just out of hand all over. So I clipped them way, way back, but I didn't want to waste the Coleus. So I did lots and lots of clippings. And here is one of them. And I put some of them just in some soil in a little container, but I put some of them in water, and I just would like to show you the root if I can do it. This has been in water not very many days because this is off of one that broke when I was planting it in the ground. So you can see that I probably got 12 or 15 plant starts off of this big trailer that had come on this plant. So I was very pleased because I'm planting them in my garden now, and they will be the Coleus that will be the accents among the hostas and the various other things. But I might add, hostas are a shade plant, and Coleus like shade too, although there are some new breeds that don't mind the sun. I'd like to show you some of the Coleus and the hostas in our garden, but they will all be the same kind, and after the other ones grow that I have planted, hopefully I can intermix them and get some more color in the garden. So come along with me and we'll find out what they look like. These are the hostas that I was telling you about. They are all the same color, and the variation I think will be a nice addition. After the other ones grow, I will replace some of these. And the Coleus are not very tall yet, but you can see they're giving it their best shot. And they are, as the summer goes along, they'll add a lot of color to the garden. Well, now we'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll talk about planting herbs. So stay with us.
You can have all the channels in the world, but without the network to deliver the signal, you've still just got TV. At Nex-Tech, we've got the channels, HD, video on demand, TV everywhere, and we have the fiber network for you, because we've got these guys, and these guys, and these guys, and these guys. Nex-Tech, our fiber network, products, and people are here for you.
Great news, Nex-Tech customers. Now you can play Sunday Funday Bingo every week for your chance to win cash prizes and free service. Play along with your bingo cards included in your Nex-Tech bill, or go to nextech.com/bingo to print out your own cards. Tune in to Nex-Tech Local 1 Sunday nights at 6 p.m.
Bingo is brought to you by All Faith Funeral Chapel, Nex-Tech Wireless, Better Water, Rogers & Associates Insurance, Cedarview Assisted Living, Genuine Appliance, American Mattress, Zimmerman Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning, and Angels Care Home Health.
Welcome back. We are here today to plant the herbs that we promised, and we have Farron Schulte, who was part of Simple as That.
We made this herb tower on the Simple as That show that we just did in May, and it's been airing, and as promised, here we have brought them to the garden show because we want to learn how to actually properly plant herbs. So Linda, can you tell us how to do that?
Well, I can sure try.
Okay.
We have got a beautiful day today,
yes.
So we're in luck. You have told me that you have decided to plant the peppermint.
Yes.
In the bottom, the biggest pot, and I think that's a great idea because peppermint has roots that go unbelievably far if you don't contain them. So we will put them in the bottom pot because they will have the most space to get going. Okay. And we have 4 of them to put in.
Okay.
And we put one in already, but let's see, I'll put one over here.
Yeah. So we've already put dirt in the bottom pot and the middle pot, and I'm gonna fill this top one while you do that.
Okay, And we'll space them close, far apart together to not have them together so that the roots can spread and have ample room. This particular kind of mint is sweet mint, but there are many kinds of mint that you can buy. You can buy pineapple mint, chocolate mint. The kind that I have in my own garden, I have contained in a pot or a couple of pots, and I've planted those pots in the ground.
Then it doesn't spread, it just kind of stays in clumps.
And so that's a better idea. Let's see. So the thing that I like to do with mint is to make mint julep. And if I have people over for a garden party or something, I serve that, and it's kind of like a glorified lemonade drink.
With some mint in it.
With some mint in it.
And it is yummy because you've made it for me before.
Yes, that's true. So we have the mint planted, and it's equal distances away apart from one another. So
should we put the second tower on?
Yes. Let me hold this one so we don't set it on there.
How's that?
Great.
Okay.
This is kind of like a raised garden.
It is, yeah.
But a very pretty one.
Yes. And we've talked off camera a little bit about how you can do this similar setup but with different pots or wash tins or all kinds of different things.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't have to, you can modify this easily, and there's all sorts of ideas on Pinterest, which is where we found this.
Oh, yes, actually there are, and there are so many it's hard to choose. So the next layer is going to be thyme. This particular thyme is German thyme, but I have an herb pot that has French thyme and English thyme. So yours is just German, but we've got lots of countries going on here. Thyme is a tiny plant. It could be used in fairy gardens, and it's a ground cover, so if you had...
So it's kind of low growing?
It's low growing, and it's just dainty, and it gets dainty little flowers. I'm supposing different country thymes probably get different colored flowers. It's not one that I know a lot about, but it's pretty, and people do use it for cooking also. Now, this is what now the chives are root bound. The rest of them were very, very, they didn't have any root problems at all. So I'm going to take a little knife and just slice through so the roots don't keep girdling around. Otherwise, they will just go round and round, and they won't be growing very well at all.
And you can use that method with all kinds of plants as well,
yes,
right? Not just herbs.
And you can, in the tree planting, they also used it for planting trees.
Okay.
So,
so I'm going to try to plant my basil on top here.
All right. And the chives are really good on baked potatoes or in cottage cheese, or they have lots of different ways you can use them in the kitchen. Something else that I wanted to mention is that all of these flower. So if you let them go to flowers, you can put them in flower arrangements, and they add a lot of color and prettiness. But if you want to use them for kitchen purposes, you should not let them flower, because they will put their energy into doing that.
When we come back in the next segment, you're going to be talking to Holly Dickman and about various topics that are pretty timely right now. So,
all right.
Thanks for tuning in.
Keeping your budget on track and having the things your family needs are often top of mind. Now, quality wireless service doesn't have to be a budget buster. Introducing the $40 unlimited smartphone plan from Nex-Tech Wireless. Enjoy unlimited data, texting, and calling for just $40 per month. There are no contracts required or overages to worry about. Certain restrictions apply. See store for details. Ask about the $40 unlimited plan and start saving today. Nex-Tech Wireless. Say hello to something different.
Restaurants, gyms, salons, libraries, and more. Nex-Tech has over 100 free Wi-Fi hotspots to keep you connected.
With us today we have Holly Dickman, who's going to tell us what her title is and what she does. And she's also going to tell us about the plants that we're seeing and what we can do to lessen the stress of plants in general in the city. So welcome, Holly.
Thank you, Linda. And as Linda said, I'm Holly Dickman. I'm the Ellis County Horticulture Extension Agent, and I do work here in the county for K-State Research and Extension. So my job is to work with landscapes and people that have questions about their plants or gardens or shrubs, things like that in their lawns and gardens. Behind us, we have some plants that obviously are looking a little rough. And unfortunately, this is something that's very common this year. We're seeing all sorts of stress in the landscape. Not only have we had several years of drought to contend with, but this last fall we went from very mild temperatures to a very severe cold snap, and that caused a lot of damage on our already stressed landscapes. And so that is what you're seeing behind us here. Many of the shrubs and plants that we're standing around here, in and amongst here, are very well adapted to this area. We have shrub roses, we have daylilies, we have Rose of Sharon back in the corner, we have Manhattan euonymus, all things that are recommended for this area. But like I said, that severe cold snap in the fall caused some significant dieback on our shrubs and our flowers. And so that's why you're seeing so many dead branches. Not only from that cold snap, but like I mentioned, those years of drought, and then also our very dry winter. We had very little snow or precipitation over the winter months. And then if you think about how the weather went up and down as far as temperatures go throughout the winter time,
this year.
That is very difficult on plants as well. So we're seeing a lot of the results of that now.
All right. And we're here at the Chamber of Commerce, but I'm supposing it's all over town.
Yeah, it really is. You know, one of my responsibilities, I guess, with my job is to help people with problems in their landscape. And overwhelmingly, the biggest issue I've been seeing this year is exactly what we're talking about today, is that dieback of some of our old-time shrubs that have been there for a long time, or even on our trees. We've seen a lot of limb dieback on trees. Not only just coming out of spring, but maybe they leafed out during the spring and now suddenly they're starting to decline, and that's all a part of stress. You know, when we talk about stress on plants, there's lots of things that can contribute to that. Weather is certainly a big one, and that's what we deal with more than anything in this part of the world, is environmental stress. But you know, the soil that we put things into, the mulch that we use, watering practices, all of those things help contribute to the health of a plant. And so to help lessen some of that stress, there are a few things that you could do. Certainly one is to apply some sort of organic mulch underneath of those trees and shrubs. Organic mulch helps to insulate the soil, so it helps to keep the soil cooler in the summertime or warmer in the fall. It also helps to reduce the weed competition around those plants, and it helps to moderate those soil temperatures, which I just mentioned. But also with organic mulch, I should mention, it breaks down over time. And so you have that added organic matter that will be adding to the soil and help contribute to the health of your soil, which is always good for plants.
So they've done a really good job. Rather than using rocks, they've chosen to use the mulch.
Yeah, you know, we see oftentimes that people like to use rock mulch, and I know why. It does not move. It's very, you know, something that's there for a long, long time. However, in the best interest of plants, if you want healthy plants, rock or inorganic mulches such as rubber, things like that, do not have some of those same benefits that a nice organic mulch that breaks down over time would have. So you have, with rock especially, you have a lot hotter temperatures for that soil in the summertime. You also have reflective heat coming back onto those plants, which is stressful for them. And also during the nighttime in Kansas, we have the nice benefit, especially in the western half, of having cooler night temperatures. And those plants have a chance to recover when the days are 110.
Yes,
and
that's a
windy.
good thing.
So it's good. If you have rock mulch, that acts as a heat sink, and so it holds that heat all night long, and the soil stays very warm, things stay very warm, and the plants just don't have a chance to recover overnight. So then you end up with additional stress on that plant. And ultimately plants will start to decline depending on the type of plant it is.
So, with these plants, or with plants in anybody's yard or property, what kinds of things could they do? Can they get out of this situation, or are they just stuck with plants that don't look very good?
Well, you know, if you have, you know, those recommended tough drought-resistant plants like the shrub roses, things like that, certainly you could go in and remove the dead, and they're pretty forgiving, so if you cut them back pretty severely, hopefully they will just send up new growth and you'll have a nice new looking shrub again. You know, certainly watering is a big factor. If you haven't watered in the past and we haven't had any rain, then you might want to go ahead and consider watering shrubs and trees deeply, but not very often. So we always say you want to soak them to a depth of about 12 to 18 inches and then allow them to dry out some before you ever water again. So, you know, take a probe, your finger, something, and feel the soil. Make sure that it actually is dry before you water.
And when we have rain, like we've been having, there is no choice, but rainwater is different than watering with your hose and that sort of thing.
Yes, you know, I always have people tell me, well, yes, we've been in drought, but I water my things.
Yes.
How can they be under stress? Well, like you just said, that rainwater that soaks the entire area and has those nice you know, soft water qualities and things that rainwater has is so much better for our plants than, you know, city water or some of those other water sources.
I am wondering if you could show us how to do some pruning, and gee, you don't have your long gloves, because I know from experience that rose bushes poke you sometimes, so maybe you can reach back in there.
It's okay. I did bring my gloves.
But they're not long enough.
I always carry those with me, and I did bring a hand pruners, and I also brought a pair of loppers, because if the branches are of significant size, we don't want to use a hand pruners because you can actually ruin those. So you want to make sure you have the right size equipment for what you're trying to prune. You know, on these rose bushes, let me see if I can find a branch that's close here. You know, certainly if you have dead in the rose bush, you can certainly just go ahead and cut that out. When you do,
if you have what?
Dead wood.
Dead wood.
Yeah. So anything that does not have green on it can be cut out. If you are trying to maybe, once you have removed all the dead, you think, oh man, this isn't the shape I want it to be, or maybe things just aren't looking as pretty as you might like. You can go ahead and prune back some of the live branches as well.
I have done that, yes.
Prune them up. So when we talk about that, we still want to make sure and have a proper pruning cut. And usually when I talk about pruning, that means pruning back to another branch. Or to the main trunk of the shrub or tree or whatever you're pruning. One of the worst things you can do is leave a stub. So let's say, and I know it's hard to see maybe, but we're going to remove this dead wood right here, which I have, back to green, which is live tissue.
I see.
But I have left a stub. So as you can see, I did not cut back to another branch. I did not cut back to
and that's
the
not
main
a good thing?
trunk. No, it's not ideal because it's harder for the plant to recover from that sort of cut. What ends up happening is that stub just dies and starts to decay, and it doesn't heal properly, or it takes much longer to heal. Also, as that stub is trying to heal itself over, it's a really nice entry point for other things, insects, diseases. So not only on shrubs, but also on trees. We never want to leave stubs. So we're going to go back and go ahead and cut this back to a main branch. And this is kind of in rough shape, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it all the way back to this one. So I went ahead and removed that, and you can see I did remove a little bit of the live tissue as well, but I cut it back to another branch there so there's no stub, and it will be easier for that plant to heal over at that point.
Now, if this was early in the spring and the greenery had not come on, is it true that you could go way back to like 5 inches above the ground and prune your rosebush that much? You can. Now it depends somewhat on what kind of rosebush it is. These being shrub roses, hopefully you don't have to do that. You know, the goal is to have this nice shrub and not have to do a lot of pruning on shrub roses. But unfortunately this year we are having to cut back quite a bit. But yes, if you have rose bushes in the spring and you'd like to cut them back, you certainly can cut them back quite significantly and not harm the shrub. But it will take longer for them to grow flowers and be pretty. Yes, it will definitely take longer. You know, hopefully the stress on the plants in the meantime is not too bad. Hopefully our weather continues to be fairly nice and mild and with rain. Yes, yes. But yes, those shrubs or the roses, you know, hybrid teas, whatever kind of rose bushes they are, they will send up new growth and hopefully it will look like a new rejuvenated plant. You know, a lot of times with rose bushes I get questions about pruning them in the fall. But fall actually is an okay time if you have really long, scraggly ones you don't want whipping around in the wind. You can go ahead and cut some of those back. But most of the time we recommend that you wait until spring after the fear of frost has passed. And then you can see what has been killed back by winter kill and what's still live tissue, and you can kind of determine where to prune at that point. Okay. Could you show us maybe about how deep the water is in the soil? Okay. Yes, certainly. Usually when I talk to people about watering, I always say, you know, check your soil to see how much moisture is there. I have this probe at the office that I use quite a bit, but you don't need anything like this. You can use something as simple as a long screwdriver, a stiff piece of wire, something that you can stick down into the soil to see how much moisture is there. So since this has mulch on top of it, I'm going to go ahead and move some of the mulch. Usually when you probe the soil, if there's moisture there, you can easily push down. Right. If you hit an area of resistance, that a lot of times indicates that you've hit dry soil. Or in this case, I'm suspecting that it's pretty compacted under there because these were flower beds that were put in after the building was built. But usually, you know, especially in a shrub flower bed like this, you would want to be able to push that probe down at least 1 foot to 18 inches. And that would ensure that you're getting that moisture down as deep as that root. So tell us quickly how we're doing. Well, it's very wet right now, which is to be expected because we have had some rain. The soil is very sticky, which indicates that it has a lot of clay in it, which is also very typical of our soil here. So, you know, this is a bed that does not need to be watered at this time. It's very sticky, very wet and muddy. I would just come back maybe after the weather's changed and we get some warmer, hotter temperatures, come back and then re-evaluate and see if you need to water. Okay. Well, thank you very much for watching the garden show. We hope that you have gotten some tips about what to do about watering and also taking care of plants that might have some stress on them. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching the garden show.